Well, hello there, and welcome to Josie's Art School, episode number 184. We are going to do one of my old favorites, a wide-eyed owl. Now, if you've been around my channel for quite a bit of time, you know that I did a series, I guess about 2 years ago, 30 ways to draw an owl. And if you were in one of my classes on a website called OutSchool, you saw that I also had a 20 ways to draw an owl class there, and it was a hit. And I also created a coloring book all about owls. You can check that out on my website. So yes, I love an owl. Also, as you can see on my logo, this is my very first logo, very old school, and all about owls. So yes, you could say that I'm a sucker for owls. Now, if you got one of my art kits, then you might have this in your art kit. And if you do, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. And if you don't, you can just pick up a piece of paper and use whatever you have available to create your owl with me. So let's check out what I'm working with today. So in the examples, you will see that it is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, so your standard copy paper, and they are very colorful owls, and I love a colorful owl, so if you love doing that, then you're in the right place. I'm going to be working on a larger size piece of paper, an 11.5 by 14, so that you can see it here on your screen, and I will also be using Sharpie just so you can see it again on your screen. If you want to, you can draw with your crayons or your markers or your colored pencils. That's absolutely fine. Or you can sketch with me just using the side of your pencil. And if you have an art kit, you have a pencil inside your box. Now, here's one thing that I want to say. You may want to make a very large owl, or you might want to make several small owls. So that will dictate the way you want to format your piece of paper. I have it formatted in portrait mode because I'm going to make a large owl, but it is definitely up to you, okay? So let's see. I always show you what I am working with. So I am using watercolor paints by Artist Loft. It can be found at your Michael's craft store. I am also using oil pastels. Here is the name of them, Daler and Rolney. And then, of course, I have my Crayola crayons. All right, so let us get started. I'm going to put you a little closer so you can see what I am doing. The very first thing that I always do when I start my drawing process is I grid my paper, okay? So I draw a dashed line down the middle going both ways. And this just gives me a sense of where I want to structure my drawing on the paper. You do not have to do this if you don't want to. And I might be doing my owl a little differently than you might. Some people like to draw the body first. I actually like to draw the eyes first. So here I go. I'm going to make a very prominent set of eyes. Or maybe you should use your Sharpie. I will do that. So there's my owl. Now, you can see in the example, there's a couple of different ways that you can make your eyes. This almost looks like the spokes of a bicycle. This shows the eyes going one way and the other way. Now, I'm going to do a combination of both. I'm going to make circles in the middle, just like this. And then I'm also going to make a pupil so that it looks like he's looking right at me. You see all that space right there? I think I'm going to make a pattern in there as well. Now you can do something like that, or you can do something a little different. Now I love having the eyes there because once you have the eyes in place, then you can design the shape of the owl however you want. I have noticed when I've done research on owls that they actually come in all different shapes and sizes. So really, as long as you get the eyes right, the way you shape the body of an owl, pretty much everybody can figure out that is what you are drawing. So we've got our eyes on the piece of paper, and also they almost have this kind of binocular look. So I'm going to make a figure 8 around my owl, just like that. Now you could even think about, sometimes I like to add extra patterns in. So you can make patterns here. You can make more patterns in the eye. It's totally up to you. Now, the noses on both of these owls are more like the shape of a slice of pizza. I am actually going to make mine like the shape of a diamond. I'm just going to stick it right there. And I like to play this game when I am drawing, where I will draw and then I will put the paper up in front of me and I will look at it and I will think, does it look like what I'm trying to make it look like? And if it doesn't, then I will think, well, what do I need to add next? Now I think for him, I need to add what we call the horns. Now many people think that it is the ear, but owls actually have their ears stuck inside, kind of like how our ears are, inside here, not sitting on top. Those are actually called horns. Now, if you've ever seen the great horned owl, you know that there's also hair kind of sticking all around. And you can add hair to your owl as well. Now, I think that he's starting to look quite a lot like an owl. What do you think? All right, so from here, I'm going to start to add the body of the owl. And again, you can do a very simple shape like this, or you can add more details to your owl. It is definitely up to you. This is your drawing, and I want you to be as creative as you want to be. So now I'm looking here at the owl, and I kind of want to add some wings. Now, in this example of the wings, it just looks like almost like what you would call a spork, right? So that's the shape that they're using. I am actually going to use a wing that looks like a quarter moon, and then I'm going to come back around again. And I'm going to do that on both sides. So here is another option that you could do if you like. Or maybe there's another way you like to draw an owl. Now, because I am using a Sharpie, I have this line here that you would normally have to erase out so that you don't see it. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to allow this to be an invitation for me to be creative, and I'm just going to make some fancy shapes inside the wings. Just like that. What else could I give him to make him look like an owl? Well, I could maybe add some feathers, or what we might call hair, but really it's feathers, onto the body of this owl. And I could also add the talons. And then if I wanted to, I could also put him on a branch. So I'm just putting two parallel lines across the bottom down here. Now, if you want to, you could also add something into the sky if you want. Maybe some clouds, maybe some birds flying by. Now, if you're satisfied with what this looks like, you can start painting or drawing more details, because in these, you see that they have added lots of patterns. And I started putting some patterns in the wings here, and I actually could still add some more patterns in here if I wanted to, right? So maybe I do a pattern around that area that looks like binoculars. All right, let's go ahead and start adding color. So do you have a favorite owl that you like? I know that sometimes when I would teach the class 20 ways to draw an owl, I would have owl sounds playing in the background as we painted. And it was so fun to hear the different types of owl sounds. A lot of my friends liked snowy owls, and they liked barn owls. And of course, the popular one is the great horned owl. You can go ahead and type into the comments over on YouTube if you have a favorite owl, and I'd be happy to look it up and listen to the sounds of the owls. Maybe if you have a second device, you could be listening to owls while you're painting along with me. Now, some people like to paint their owl in very traditional colors. And if that is you, feel free to do that. I remember one time when I was going to the mailbox right here on my street where I live right now. I looked up in the air. You know how sometimes something moves and it causes you to look? I looked up in the air and I saw an owl fly into a tree of my neighbor's right across from the mailbox. And as you may have noticed, the owl many times takes on the colors of nature so it can be camouflaged, so it can remain safe. And I remember I had to stare so hard and stand perfectly still in order to see that owl in my neighbor's tree. And what was so funny is for a minute or so while I was standing very still looking for that owl, I thought, did I just imagine that owl? And then one moment it just moved very slightly and I was able to take a picture of it. And even when I look at that picture to this day, it's very hard for me to even see that the owl is there. Isn't that funny? Well, I think that what that tells you is that their features on their body is doing a really good job of keeping them safe out in the wild. Because in my area, there are coyotes and things like that because I live kind of in a country type area. But at the same time, I don't think they necessarily have to worry about the coyotes. I think there's other things that they have to protect themselves from. Have you seen any owls where you live? All right, so I started with watercolor paint. And now I'm going to add in my crayons. And again, I'm not going to be afraid of color. I'm going to try some different things. And sometimes as I add color, it starts to come into my mind to maybe try something different. There's something about owls that I don't even mind painting them and drawing them over and over again. They're just such a fun shape to create. And really, you can never get it wrong. I don't know if you've ever painted other animals before, but there are times when I'll try to draw something like a horse. A horse is actually not very easy to draw, at least not for me. And so if you don't get the shapes just right, it really does not look like a horse. All right, so now I'm using an oil pastel. If you've ever used an oil pastel before, some people when they first see it think, oh, it's just a crayon. But actually what you'll notice right away, at least my opinion of it, is I think that the oil pastel actually goes onto the paper much more smoothly. And I actually think it gives you a more vibrant color than just your regular crayons. So if you ever have a chance to try them, make sure and do. I'd love to hear what you think. Now in the art kits that I have been doing currently, I usually just put tempera paint in it. But I think in my future art kits, I might start adding one or two of the oil pastels so you can get a chance to see what it's like to try them. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so as I'm doing this, I'm wondering, do I want to add some color to the eyes? Maybe a little bit of green? Let's see how that looks. It'll almost look like they're going to glow in the dark. Let's see. Can't hurt to try, can it? All right. so as I start to blend this in, I actually do like the color of that purple. I think I'm going to add a little bit into the sky as well. Oh man, okay. So notice as I put this really deep brown on the back, that causes the colors in the owl to really come alive, which is kind of ironic, right? Because most owls that you tend to see are brown. And here I have taken the opposite approach where I've put the blue on the owl, but I've put the brown in the sky. Have you ever done something silly like that when you're creating? So this week in my YouTube videos, I've created the owl. I've also created the fox, if that's in your art kit. And I've also created the display of fruit. So if you have those, they should pop up in the history on my YouTube channel. And if not, just Google it under a search for the name Josie's Art School, and you should find it fairly quickly. I do want to also say that if there is a project that you've been wanting to try, just put it in the comments and I will be sure to try to add it to the art kits. All right, it's starting to come together very nicely. So I decided to add some red to the brown just to give it a little more pop. I got really brave today with the color choices. I've noticed sometimes when I'm not sure with the colors that I'm using whether they'll come together, I find that if I walk away for a little bit and let all of the colors dry and work together, I will be pleasantly surprised. So make sure to trust your instinct as you're adding color. Sometimes it might not be the traditional way that you put colors together, or maybe even the traditional way that your friends put things together. But this is the beauty of having your very own art practice, is you can do whatever you like. All right, I think that we are done here. I am so happy that you came by today. Make sure and like and subscribe to this video. And I put a video up at least 2 times a week, many times 3 times a week. And if you are looking for those art kits I've been mentioning, please make sure and look in the comments or check me out on Instagram under Robin Norgren, and you'll find the art kits there as well. All right, you guys, thanks so much for stopping by.